globe. I like the purple hose you wear sometimes. I like nickels, not as much as, excuse me while I talks to my accountant.
Hello there, colleagues. Across town, across the globe, I'm glad you could join me on the 18th of November in the year of our Lord 2021 so that me and my group of extremely competent investigators can let you know what is really going on in the world that you know and the world behind the curtain, which is where a whole lot is really going on. But you know that if you have tuned in before. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce the people who came with me tonight. Number one, Harry Chest. Harry Chest is a retired poultry geologist. He grew up in a smoking, drinking neighborhood in Petaluma, California, and later he studied at the University of Microwave Recipes in Fairfax, Virginia. Now, in the past, he has been a promoter of pop music concerts, usually featuring hopelessly irrelevant bands, and reportedly, he has had sex with any number of the members of the groups we're talking about. Presently, he's an assistant to the head of the California Solid Food Commission and a publicist for the Living Apart Coalition. His recent book concerns things that his doctor never told him about malapropisms. Now, I'm not saying that Harry has been guilty of malapropisms, but I do want to ask him a leading question. Maybe that will result in either clarity or a malapropism. But what I want to know, Harry, and I'm not like one of these information gossip spreading types, these people you had sex with in some of these hopelessly insignificant groups, can you give us any of the names?
Oh, hell no. I didn't know their names at the time. I sure as hell don't remember their names now. I just always went with baby. That worked for me.
That's right. It was the 60s, so that explains a lot. Well, Harry will have a whole lot more to say this evening. I also expect to hear a lot from Nanotech. She is a role model for millions of aspiring backwoods biologists and horror movie critics. She's not quite here yet, but I told her to be here at 6:30. I know she's busy working. She works round the clock.
Boss, I'm here. I'm here, boss. Can you hear me, boss?
She's getting close, obviously. Like I say, she'll be here. She is a retired LA journalist, you know, and as a journalist, she worked in jungles and in bowling alleys and in boardrooms across America, and she's been heard by more than a dozen, well, they call them rhino bathers. I don't know why, and I don't think they mean R-I-N-O. I think they mean, there you are. Glad you could make it tonight, Nan.
I will never get used to that. Oh, that is what we call a wild ride.
Well, I'm glad you're here with us, and I want to tell you, I have been reading your new book, which explains why starvation, well, it sort of explains why starvation and the Loch Ness Monster are connected, but maybe you can give me more detail. I didn't really get it.
Well, boss, I mean, let's see, the Loch Ness Monster is what, 1,000 years old? And
At least.
you don't have that kind of lifespan without, having something to eat. And I know a lot of, there have been so many sightings over the years, and it turns out it's because he, I don't want to misgender the Loch Ness Monster, Nessie, has a penchant for sailors, which I can completely understand.
Okay. Well, I guess you heard it here first, right? First time tonight, anyway. Let me also tell you something about Earl E. Tubed. He's my last investigator for the night. He is a designer of a fact-free approach to molecular identity at San Diego State Windshield Repair Academy. And he's a chief apologist for the not even hungry radical theologians of Southern California. He's written extensively on the lure of high-powered weapons in jury selection in jaywalking cases, I think. And he first pioneered the theory of mechanical vigilante behavior in mythical Second or Third Amendment cases, of which there are, I think, at least 17. His latest book, they all have a book, obviously. His latest book is about melting bowling trophies, which is something I've been meaning to get around to for years. I have a lot of them, and I don't even look at them anymore. So I wanted to ask Earl a question that I guess he's been asked before. There was a time when you did a lot of lecturing and writing on relationships and problems in relationships. And I remember I was in the audience one time when you said that incessant howling can sometimes be very attractive.
Indeed, yes, it's quite the mating ritual. I find that when I have an audience of people watching my friends and me with our experimental projectile projects, in fact, dodge bowling is really our favorite pastime. Every time you miss and one lands in the audience, that's the miss for you. That's how I met my wife.
Huh. Well, I can't say that anybody here will remember it the way I remember it now, because the audience applauded when you said that the first time, but I don't think they really understood.
Yes, well, my ex-wife. It was a very short.
Well, I know 4 or 5 later you have a problem remembering their names.
All the concussions, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Remember, folks, put your seat belts on while we dive into tonight's agenda. First thing we have to tell you about is the search by the January 6th Commission for secret Trump records. They've been after these records for a long time, so let me give you some background here. The thing is, vinyl records used to be disappearing because we had 8 tracks, and then we had cassettes, and then we had, Napster, and we had downloading, but vinyl is coming back. Now, Donald Trump played with a lot of music ensembles at a long time ago, distant part of his career before he thought about being #1. Anyway, some of those records he hoped would go into obscurity, obsolescence by now, but they're coming back. Collectors are digging them up. For example, one of those that has just been re-released is called So Sue Me. In this record, Donald was calling himself King DJ.
Could you say it again, please?
No, Siri always wants to answer my questions, but DJT, excuse me. He was very popular when he was with the Swamp Drainers. Later on, he had another hit. He called himself Trumpster Dumpster. And here he was with a group called the Frog Disruptors. That's one of my favorite records, Don't Make Me Duet. You were telling me, Harry, that it's really Don Make Me Duet. If you play it backwards.
If you play it backwards through and you reverse the left and right speakers of the stereo, it is in fact Don Make Me Do It.
Don Make
It's actually one of Melvanka's favorite records, I believe.
Well, she's on it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
She's
on a lot of things, I find.
Yeah, but I think she's doing the incessant howling is what Earl told me one time. Then there was another record called Big Donald and the Sycophants. That one is called Jailbait and Snitch. I'm not saying that I would read anything into that necessarily, but Jailbait and Snitch it has that edgy ring, and a lot of the music on that secret Donald Trump album is pretty edgy. That's what you were telling me, Nan? That you can cut yourself with...
Oh, certainly, and if you listen to the album, you... believe me, it's something you need to avoid wanting to do. But that's just my personal opinion. I'm not a music critic.
I know you listen to it every week because you're always reciting the lyrics to who put it in the trunk this time. Okay, there's another one. I just have to mention one more because I'm really interested in this, and I own a copy of Don the Urgent and the Detergents. It's called Lolita Express. This is the only one that specifically says rated X, but it's obviously rated X. Earl, you've studied this one quite a lot.
Yeah, this one didn't actually come with the parental warning, but you might reconsider with lyrics like this. Donnie was a surgeon, 2 political virgins. Epstein's wingman, never met a thing. Fam, Dodd Selective Service, still made the Dems nervous. Immigrant purging, church and state merging, never had a COVID plan, negotiates with Taliban. Democracy just hurts us because your votes are worthless. Overrun the Capitol because suddenly it's practical. Coerce the vice president, naturally it's self-evident. Liberties and free fall, it's all for one, just me, y'all.
Wow, Earl, those are what the kids call some sick beats that you were throwing down.
Thank you, thank you. Learned to spit at age 3.
And on the album, there's a long instrumental passage after that, which has a lot of sound effects. The gargling sounds like Nessie to me, but never been able to confirm that. It's supposed to be an actual reptile or mammal. It's not specified. I mean, it's one or the other. Anyway, everybody on the committee would like a copy of all of the secret Trump records. But in the meantime, they're going to go after people who have something to say about what was going on. And the first person who qualifies for that distinction is Mr. Bannon, Steve Bannon, who has utter contempt for that January 6th committee. But I'd like to ask my authority on legal matters, one of my authorities, Harry Chest, about the fact that they will now be going after people with barely concealed contempt.
Yeah, in fact, there's a new standard they'll be held to. It's not preponderance of evidence anymore. It's simply more probable than not that the event occurred.
Right, and I think we all have a suspicion in that direction already, but I'm not going to speak for everybody. I'll tell you what, though, to get Steve Bannon to go along with this indictment, a criminal indictment for contempt, he's got to be forced to own up to being a criminal. So how are they going to make him comply? That's what I'm trying to get at. Well, number one, I have been told, and none of you will confirm it for me, that he is already being forced to listen to Kanye West records all day long, all week long, until he finally says, stop it. And we've heard how brusque he can be, so I guess that is what they're looking for. I've also been told that he's going to be asked to serve as a Santa Claus at the Mall of Infamy in Virginia this holiday season. That's one way to get him to comply, huh?
Yeah, well, you know, boss, he is really good with kids, so I think
That used to be important for a Santa Claus. I didn't know it still was, but finally, I am told that he is going to be required to bathe and shave on a daily basis. Right, Earl?
Well, you know, I think he's going to get some help because I'm expecting Grover Norquist is going to visit his house once a week to hand wash Bannon's laundry while he's wearing it.
yes, it also in a bathtub, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Boy, you guys really dig deep. There are some other Republicans, though. Let's take, for example, Stephen Miller. And he's an example of some Republicans these days who are saying they don't remember. In other words, in the case of Mr. Miller, he's saying he may have been in the White House, but he's been in a lot of billings, so he doesn't actually remember if he was in the White House. Might have been the Rittenhouse or something.
I'm just concerned that somewhere in a closet in North Virginia, there's a painting of vomit slowly aging on his behalf.
Aging. We'll get into diet and nutrition later, but another example, Katie McEnany. She says she thinks she did work for a Republican president, but she can't remember, once again, which one. And Ted Cruz?
You know, boss, not to defend Kayleigh McEnany, but once a woman reaches middle age, it sometimes becomes really difficult to remember things. I mean, occasionally it'll...
That sentence. You didn't...
Oh, I'm sorry. What were we... Okay.
Oh, that's okay. I got your point there. And Ted Cruz is another example of people who don't remember. He doesn't remember ever debating a big bird. I think he's been saying lately that he doesn't even speak bird. You were telling me something else about him?
Well, yeah, you were saying that there was that Go Find Me campaign. I was just giving...
Oh, yeah, all of these Republicans have joined the new internet site Go Find Me.
And it's such a blessing, given the tension they've had between them and, you know, Sesame Street. I'm glad the GOP finally drew a positive lesson from the street's Go F Me campaign.
Okay. I mean, I agree with that. And I'm all for the bird. I mean, I don't want people shooting birds. I want them...
Flipping.
Yeah, that.
Speaking of, I mean, for not remembering, similar to what Nan said, you know, I think you and I, we lived through the 60s, so I think I can defend, I'm not really sure, but I'm told I lived through the 60s.
They were after the 50s, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, all right. And speaking of climate, the political climate and whatnot, anyway, they just wrapped up another climate conference in Glasgow this time. And as often happens, there were a lot of resolutions. Not that means it's going to mean clean water or clean air for you, but there were a lot of resolutions. For example, one of them said, we these nations, and it's about 200 nations, will only use coal in situations where it's not technically against the law. And another one said, we, these 200 nations, we will only use electric cars in movies and television programs. I guess that's because they were actually using things that are gas guzzlers.
Like the military, they've committed to transitioning nuclear subs to solar power and surface ships to full magnetic levitation.
Oh, that'll be an exciting, that'll be an exciting new feature. People have also resolved to say the right things about protecting Spaceship Earth, and they've also resolved that except for the big superpowers with the giant carbon footprints, that everybody else is going to listen to people under 21 who speak good English, even if it's not their mother tongue. But as you're saying, this is happening in the same time as there are a lot of technological developments. Now, one area where there might be some changes involves oil spill credits. You might remember that in the early days when we were talking about pollution, there was the notion that corporations that pollute a lot can buy credits from other smaller companies that don't pollute, and therefore we sort of control pollution. This one would be a new version where we have oil spills where you can spill a little oil if you bought a credit for somebody from somebody who isn't spilling any oil. This doesn't have much Democratic support except for Manchin and Sinema, but you were telling me that it's more complicated than it looks.
Well, it's more that it's a refreshing change of direction from the previous administration, whose contributions to international climate talks is something along the lines of jingle, lingo, bingo for pinkos.
Yeah, that's what it was. I remember that. And they also looked like they had been looking at the sun too long, and they sounded like they had. But right now, there is talk of commercial airliners being powered by solar power, and that would be an engineering feat. In fact, some of the aviation journals are talking about it right now in exactly those terms.
Well, unfortunately, there have been a few setbacks. As you know, the last solar eclipse left no survivors. So everyone's still sort of working on that at this point.
Okay, survivors, yeah.
Yeah, a bit of a,
yeah.
You know.
I see what you mean. Yeah. Well, here's what it comes down to. While many of the smaller nations of Earth are resolved to do something about all our climate problems, and while there is a lot of technological innovation going on, what the rich nations are mostly doing is agreeing to provide T-shirts about shaving the earth to all of the poor countries. Doesn't sound like it's going to solve a problem. Not to me.
I mean, it sounds like they just need a little help from Oprah. You know, for example, she goes and distributes the clothes in arenas where entire wardrobes of, you know, goodwill propaganda will be taped under attendees' seats.
Yeah, she tosses him out. You get global change. You get global climate change. You get global climate change. It's quite a festive event, actually.
That sounds great, but I thought we've already been shaving the earth through deforestation for a long time. So.
Well, technically, yes. Maybe they just had that shirt left over from a time before.
I probably yes, I believe that was during the Nixon era when people were a little overgrown and people would look askance at them.
Askance. That's a dance movement, as I recall. We've talked about that.
Well, they created the EPA and the EPA in the 70s, so those conversations, I think, were more led by the American movement.
Ah, yes.
Oh, the people that miss America.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of us miss America these days.
And the cover-ups, it all kind of, yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of which, inflation is the big devil of the moment, with prices soaring everywhere. For example, you know, a lot more people have pelicans for pets, and pelican food is going through the roof right now. I was going to get some the other day for my pelican. Fortunately, somebody told me they'll eat anything, or just about anything. So I'm trying that out.
As far as I know, they were doing okay eating the smaller, weaker penguins first, but those have been in a sort of short supply.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of things are in short supply, except I am understanding that lint removal kits, those prices are soaring on those, even though lint is not in short supply.
Oh,
As-
lint prices are down 40% due to the fact that we have an oversupply of lint now and not enough demand. We have a sort of a lint glut, if you will.
Okay. In addition to a lint well, yeah, what you said, I understand that mailman repellent, that spray that so many of us use because mailmen are constantly bringing us bills that we can't pay, the mailman repellent through the roof. Also the scuba diver pictures, those cost a lot. It's a good thing I stocked up on scuba diver pictures, before all of this got started. But let me just point something out here. You see this picture of a freezer that I took the other day? That's what a lot of people's freezers look like right now because they can't really afford food anymore that they used to buy at the grocery store. So what people are doing instead is looking around the house to see if there's something that they can eat. For example, this is sort of a confession. I have an old lazy boy type of recliner which I sauteed the other day, and I have leftovers that will probably last me another, 3-4 days, maybe a week. How about you guys?
Well, personally, I've been really enjoying the pelican food that.
So I guess your pet.
Yeah, I had some free samples. Now I'm getting my finances a bit back on track because, as you know, substance abuse is down. It's not quite as de rigueur as it used to be, and
it's also more expensive.
Oh, my accountant is thrilled. He is thrilled. I had a $1,000 a day airplane glue habit, and it turns out you can't really. It doesn't have much nutritional value. So the pelican food is helping me out until get back on track.
Harry, are you eating things around the house?
Yeah, I've actually just discovered a delightful recipe for. I make a really good mouse pad stew now, so it's got little salt, little pepper, and what I really like is that there's a delicate little béarnaise sauce with just a hint of truffle, and that just makes that mouse pad stew just off the charts. It's fabulous.
Fascinating.
I think it's complemented very well when you get extra mouse balls too, right? But you have to be very careful when it's surgical.
Yeah, you would have to be careful.
Yeah, and the anesthesias.
I'll tell you who's being careful right now is the Federal Reserve Board, because they know they have to do something about this inflation, but they don't know what to do. One thing that they've talked about is enforcing a meatless holiday season. The idea here is if we cut back on that meat consumption for the last part of the year, they think it could save us up to $2 trillion. Huh? Okay. Another thing I heard about, and I don't think this makes a lot of sense. I'm told that they may adjust the prurient interest rate, or they may not.
Well, the U.S. Treasury has been issuing vouchers for panel vans as well, and so I noticed Earl's already got his parked outside the women's clinic.
Well,
and the motor's running in case anybody needs a ride.
Well, you want first, the cream of the crop is generally the first ones out. So you typically you want to have your panel van parked there immediately, so
gotcha.
you don't get any of the
You don't really
so
need to explain it, Harry. I think it's like those rock stars.
As long as you got the Dixie horn ready to play.
Right. One more thing that the Fed is thinking about, and this I find very interesting, they are deciding whether some things should be goods or services. Like the other day when I got my $288 haircut, they said, how do you want me to charge that on your invoice? And I said, what, I've got a choice? In any way, it's going to confuse a lot of statisticians if some services become goods and vice versa. But the main thing is that in this economy, in the modern age, it's not that easy to tell what is good and what is a service.
I heard an anecdote that Robert Kraft is actually behind a lot of this reorganizing goods and services because he's very familiar with good service, but he's still a little bit confused between the actual goods and services. But he knows a good service when he gets one.
Yeah, I've heard something about that.
It's handy. It's handy to know.
Yeah.
It's
Here's the thing, though. A lot of people are dealing with inflation, sure, and the Federal Reserve is trying to deal with inflation. But on the other hand, one thing that's happened that's good for people who are starting to get old, and I mean over 65 old, is that their Medicare plans now include all sorts of features that they don't really have to pay for. I wanted to share a few of them with you because if you look closely, if your first impression would be, well, they're all the same, but they're not. Look here at what's available on the Exuma plan. Exuma offers microwave tune-ups. You know, I could use a microwave tune-up every time I put something in, that's not supposed to explode. It tends to explode anyway. So
I certainly would never turn down a good tune-up. That's
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, it's free. This interested me, the Rumba Squad. Now, you would think that this means they're going to give you rumba lessons or something like that. No. What they do, they send out a rumba squad, and while you're doing your housework, they are just all over your house doing some rumba movements so that you can relax and get into a groove.
That's so festive. I love it.
Yeah, but you're not old enough yet, Nan, so... Almost there. They give away a book which tells you a lot about poisonous houseplant information. So if that's important to you, go see the Exuma people. There's another one, though. It offers different benefits. It's the AARPO box plan. This one has barking lessons.
Barking lessons?
Barking lessons. I mean, for your dog,
okay.
Presumably.
Well, my dog, already reads Braille and does astral projection.
Well, my dog has been taught Portuguese and is planning to become a folk singer. Portuguese folk songs. He practices every day at the bus stop. I need to teach him to drive so I don't have to take him down there every day.
Is that turning out to be a profitable exercise for him?
Not profitable yet.
Okay.
No, not
But you have a business plan in place?
Oh, 5-year plan.
Okay.
By the 5th year, he's planning to make it all back. And it has something to do with that vomit on the wall thing you were talking about.
A painting of, but okay.
Oh yeah, it's a painting of it. Mm-hmm. But it's going to be 5 years old. Now, teller visits. Apparently, when you are overdrawn at the bank, if you have this benefit plan, the teller will come out to your house and let you know.
Which sounds fantastic. I thought, okay, sign me up for this, AARPO. So my free teller visit, they accidentally they sent me pen instead, and what a headache that was. And, me without any airplane glue, I mean, what was I supposed to do? So.
Well, if you could find your way out of that, it would be magic.
Truly.
Anyway, they also have some study groups, I don't know studying what, and a tip service. But here's the plan that I really like. This is one from Cigna Heil. They have a chest expander video. And I don't think it matters if you're a male or a female elderly person. Everybody would like to expand their chest, right?
Yes.
No, almost everybody.
Okay.
I did. Have you watched the video, boss?
I watched up to the part where it said you have to turn it off if you are not. I forget what the age was.
I thought Stormy Daniels did just an absolutely fantastic job for her.
Yeah, she
for her first job out of the box. I thought she did really well.
Right, exactly. This plan also has a doctor speak translator. So if your doctor tells you that you have an ileomatic glycephalol, you can look it up right there. It's on a little pocket thing like your iPhone, and you just look at what he said on your device, and you can know what he's telling you. Usually, now the one that I'm surprised about here, they offer 20 pounds of squirrel protein. I have been told, I'm not sure about this, but I've been told that you can feed that to your pelicans.
Yes, and I enjoy it myself. In fact, I would go as far as to say that squirrel's favorite is my favorite too.
Okay. Earl, did you have any insights on?
I mean, just that I'm already getting health alerts through this thing. You know, I already subscribed to the Twitter feed for Achtung lessons, and I purchased my first Einradsschweindreier.
And you get it at a discount, I imagine.
I do. I mean, the pigs have never been shinier, and now drier.
Well, I can hardly wait until I'm eligible for one of these programs, but as a service to all of you out there, all of you oldies who watch this show, I know some of you have been watching us for 65 years, which is why I know you would qualify for some of these free benefits.
Nan,
but,
if I might, boss, Nan, how are you preparing your squirrel protein?
Squirrel loaf. Actually, I'm shaping it into a turkey for Thanksgiving. Mashed squirrel protein. It's wonderful. Little butter. You'd never know it wasn't sweet potatoes. You know, little few pecans, maybe a little airplane glue to hold it all together. There are just so many things you can do with it.
But if you're out of airplane glue,
this is true. Well, just on its own, it's just perfectly delicious. A spoonful in the morning. You can stir it in your coffee.
Okay.
I'm not being paid to say any of this, or I might be, full disclosure, but I highly recommend that everyone give it a shot.
Are these cruelty-free, free-range squirrels?
Yes. Well, no.
No?
No, not at all.
No.
There's the extra cruelty version, and then there's the lower cruelty version. That's a little more expensive.
Cruelty light.
Yeah, cruelty light.
yeah.
That's what I mix in my coffee in the morning.
Oh, perfect. Great.
I'll tell you something. There are people who don't really qualify for these special Medicare plans that we're talking about, and these people are different from those fighting inflation. I'm talking about a group of people who prepares in advance, those who have shrewd investments, and that includes my colleagues here. I know they've been investing shrewdly for years. For example, I know that, I happen to know that Earl is heavily invested in Johnny Cash cows, and I know that Nan has been talking to a denture capitalist to bite down on some of these. Anyway, I understand you have a new shrewd investment, Harry, which is, I'm told it's some sort of synthetic golf ball.
Yes, that's correct, boss. I'm really excited about this project. In fact, I'm so excited I brought a prototype of the synthetic golf ball. So for everyone.
Harry, are you sure that's not an egg?
Well, it's a prototype, isn't it? So it's still in the beta testing phase.
Okay.
But what we're having, it's very aerodynamic. It flies through the air quite well, but we're having a little trouble on impact when it breaks. So we've got our civil engineering and mechanical engineering team doing a finite element analysis on it to determine where the cause of failure is. But I'm very hopeful this will take will take off someday soon.
And it's a golf ball that's self-propelled. In other words, you wouldn't actually have to strike it with a club.
Well, we're not quite there yet, boss. But right now it's solar powered. So, but we're trying to move from having the little solar array on top of it to truly being a self-contained, self-propelled device.
Well, that's a shrewd investment. I hope you don't have all of your eggs in one basket there, Harry, but it sounds like you're on top of something. And
yeah, we've really teed off on the whole concept, I think.
I'll tell you one thing. I mean, I know this won't sound very interesting to some of you, but I'm invested in a lifestyle coach training program academy, because a lot of these people who hold themselves out as lifestyle coaches, they actually have no particular, they have nothing to impart until they are actually trained. So I'm pretty much up to my eyeballs in that. Earl, you've got something more down to earth, or it's like it's sitting close to the earth. You're invested in the Safety Net Profit Company, and I think they make tents.
Yeah, well, they also have a line that I've decided to throw in for. So back in maybe the early 90s, they were part of the hobo chic movement. Well, now together we're launching this line that's more on the lines of hobo streak, providing invisible clothing. So it sort of evokes the disinherited and exceedingly ambulatory sports enthusiast. We carry all the major sports franchises and trademark mascot costumes. Have a run through our stores.
Just if I could just dig a little deeper on this, Earl. I'm looking at the picture. It looks like that habitat would be a little Spartan, don't you think? I mean, without buying all the accessories you're saying are also part of the company. I mean, a lot of people just pick up this tent. If they're homeless, they move under the freeway. Now they've got an address, because it comes, I can see that, it comes with an address, at least on that sign, I think.
It's hard to see the address or any part of the wardrobe, but that's really the point.
I see. Well, that's an investment, certainly. Another promising thing is Book Burners Limited. Their real name, I guess, is Always Right. And I guess that's right as in right-wing, like conservatives, because I am told that the Republican Party is keying up for a new episode of book burning. I mean, you see complaints these days about all sorts of textbooks in junior high school and high school that are supposed to be somehow provocative and pornographic.
Cathode ray theory, for example.
Yeah, and I mean, we studied that when I was going to school, and nobody even got nobody even got excited because it was kind of droll text.
It's interesting that you mentioned Book Burners Limited, because I have diversified a bit of my portfolio into that. Not necessarily because I agree with their whole company gestalt or anything like that, but as an investment, it makes sense. I mean, winter is coming, and a lot of these great works are just, they're really substantial publications. And, something like Their Eyes Were Watching God could heat a whole neighborhood of, say, at the last shareholders meeting we were discussing, partnering up with the tent group, and that can heat a whole tent neighborhood.
Of course, some of these people
winter.
might take one of these books and braise it or steam it or something and try to eat it first.
This is true.
But if they can't eat it, then they can heat their residence.
Absolutely.
That is very shrewd, Nan. That is very shrewd. I won't go any further.
Nan, do you find that to burn the books, is airplane glue a good way to get that fire started? Or
not unless that's something you're really into, you can have some unexpected experiences with that.
I see.
Let's just say that I won't say too much, but because I don't want to. I know sometimes we have children watching. I don't want to encourage anything.
Well,
like that.
we have children watching, and we have people over 65, a lot of them watching, who've been watching so long that they can't remember your names, which I can't remember your names half the time anyway.
I can't remember my own name, so.
Yeah. Another investment, I don't know if any of y'all have money in it. There's a company called Smuggle Correct, and what they say they can do, this appeals, again, mostly to the Republican Party, which is trying to branch out into every local subdivision here with a new, I'll have to choose my words carefully, with a new enterprise. Anyway, this company says that they can import the kind of illegal aliens who will vote Republican. So in a close race, it could make a big difference. I've got a little money in Smuggle Correct just because I want to cover the backside. But I would say that the other opportunities that are out there, well, we could spend a lot of time talking about things like Chip Short or the Rittenhouse Accents Company. But I don't think most people need to take crying lessons unless they're going to be acting in, say, a courtroom or something like that. Even so, while many are investing, you see how one thing turns on another in this episode? Even though many are investing, just as many people have decided it's time to quit their jobs.
Well, not only their jobs, but their Gates, their Bezos, I guess there's a Musk, as well. All of them.
Yeah, quit all of them. Now, the reason some people do it, they say, well, you know, for a long time I thought I had to have an income, but I don't need a job. I've got climate change. I think some of these people may have been misled by, well, I'm not going to say who, but...
Boss Ted, I count myself, unfortunately, as one of the ones that was misled because when I heard about climate change, I thought that meant there'd be more change when I go to the laundromat. I could reduce my laundry budget by having climate change appear.
Like
Apparently that doesn't happen.
It doesn't work, no. But you know what? A lot of these people who are right now flipping burgers in a fast food establishment, somehow they have falsely learned or been told or been propagandized to believe that they can make a fortune because of a job market that means, well, for example, here we have something I looked at on the internet just the other day. They're looking for a director of logistics, but the only people that really should apply for this are people who worked in low-paying fast food jobs. I have to think there might be something fraudulent about that kind of advertising, but maybe I'm just being suspicious. A lot of people, you know, I want to talk about getting a nose job. And you know how that fits in? A lot of people believe right now that if they have a nose for news, this is time to jump off that low-paying job and into something that's going to propel them. Once again, it looks ridiculous. And this company that's advertising on the internet asks you to send a naked photo along with your bank account number. If I were a betting man, which I am, I would bet that there's something fishy going on here.
Geez, boss, again, I need to consult with you on a more frequent basis. I completely fell hook, line, and sinker for any time there's a chance to send a naked photo, I jump on that opportunity immediately.
So did you get the job?
I'm still waiting. I've been told any day now I'll hear back. So.
And you'll hear back from somebody that's actually in charge of hiring.
Yeah, well, they're still trying to sort out whether hiring me would put me in the category of a good or a service. So I think when the whole goods versus services thing gets resolved, I'm really hopeful. But in the meantime, I have my synthetic golf ball to fall back on. So.
Yeah, well, I think that might serve you well going into the future. Going into the future is something we're all going to have to do whether we want to or not. So I'm going to take these last few minutes here, 7 minutes according to what I'm seeing there on the screen, to try, and Earl, did I miss something that you were going to tell me earlier?
No.
Okay, I just like to practice decorum around here. That's a service. You know, I don't charge for it. But in any case, we want to finish with something maybe a little more lighthearted, because one thing many people are looking forward to is this new Peter Jackson Beatles documentary that's coming around Thanksgiving, about 6 hours worth of stuff that you've never seen. And we have been told that these are outtakes, that this is what really happened when Let It Be was being filmed. But as usual, my staff of investigators has dug into the story, and they have some things to tell you. And not only that, we have already seen the movie, which you people out there haven't. Now, we're not going to spoil it for you, but we do want you to know some things that are being said that are not true. It's just like, you know, these fraudulent job opportunities that we've been talking about. Number one, it is said that the Let It Be sessions were actually filmed in the Twickenham Studios and Abbey Road Studios in London. I don't think so. It turns out that the Beatles actually hid themselves away in a warehouse behind a tobacco shop in Finland. We have a picture here. I can't promise you that's the real picture, but it was something like that. They were parking that big truck in front of it all day long.
Yeah, I don't mean to interrupt, boss. Go ahead. I do have some additional info on the filming.
Yes.
Is they did most of the post production was done at the Four Seasons Landscaping place in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Well,
that's exclusive with me. You heard it here first from me.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I had not heard that before. As much as I have heard, that is a new tidbit. But here's what I want to tell you. There were rumors, you probably heard them yourself if you were alive when Harry and I were listening to rock music in the 60s. People were saying Paul McCartney is dead. He's been replaced. He's not really part of the Beatles anymore. Well, guess what? It turns out he was, or is, dead, but he showed up for the sessions anyway.
This is true, boss. I can confirm this. Yet Paul was dead. He did show up anyway. They did a great job. In fact, the story inspired the popular film Weekend at Bernie's. You would have never known. The makeup people did fantastic. He looks great on those album covers. And notice they never made a live appearance after that. They didn't need to.
No, they didn't.
And when they did, of course, it was he was a bit stiff. But no one really commented on that.
Well, what I've been told, one reason he looks stiff, this is what we discovered. The Beatles didn't actually split up after they were filming this segment. They actually transitioned to either another dimension, a parallel reality, something like that. We don't know the exact scientific terminology, but they left that situation, and they actually are still writing music and thriving. They're in the top 10 in this alternate universe. You can see right there they have a #1 hit again. All you need is 3/4 monosilicate or a reasonable facsimile. And, well, that reminds me of one of the things they wrote when they were in this universe. You were telling me that you have heard other things that have been released in this parallel universe?
Yeah, the bonus tracks. Everybody's got something to hide except me and my 1978 Ford Pinto. Or
Yeah.
Gotta Get You Into My C++ compiler.
I thought I heard a bootleg copy of Gotta Get You Into My Trunk, but I'm...
Yeah, it's the Italian translation.
Oh, okay.
And then there's the Loosely Indescribable with Diacritical Marks. It's a crowd pleaser.
Boy, I'm almost wishing we could go over there and hear what they're up to now. But I'll tell you what, I played all week. I'm sorry I spilled it by the lollygags. That's my favorite of the moment. Anyway, we didn't spoil the whole movie for you because there's plenty of things that you'll want to look at. You'll want to see why somebody imitated George and made their way into the sessions, and why Ringo was actually a hologram the entire time. You know.
I highly recommend seeing it in the 4D IMAX version, because the smell-o-vision alone just really puts you in 1969 London.
That
it really
does. That it does. And you can even smell the paintings on the wall. That's what I'm telling you right now, because we did. And I'm pretty sure that we'll be back to tell you more about whatever else is happening in the very near future, because it's our job to come here on a regular basis and share what we know with those of you out there who wish they knew everything that we know. And that's what we do. And I won't say we don't get paid for it, but we don't get paid for it. Actually, we do have some enterprises of our own that are making money, but that is another story. That'll have to wait until we're off the clock somewhere. So, on behalf of Earl E. Two Bed and Nanotech, who's got to get back to a small, tiny world that she works in most of the time, and Harry Chest, who can't remember the names of some of the people he was close to in an earlier version of this life, I want to say we're all so glad that you could make it tonight, and we'll be seeing you the next time we're here. Until that time, bye, folks.
And don't forget, squirrel's favorite. If you're serving pelican, it's a great side.
Now, is the reverse process when you transition back to where you came from? Is that as painful as?
Yes, incredibly painful, incredibly.
So does the airplane glue help with the pain mitigation? That's
I like the earrings dangling from your lobes. I like the pumas on your new bathrobe. I like the purple hose you wear sometimes. I like nickels, not as much as excuse me while I talks to my accountant.